While I enjoy the slice of life stories more than anything else, sometimes it's nice to break away from that norm so we can enjoy a nice episode that's geared more toward the fantasy genre. And ever since Season 2's Dragon Quest, I've always wanted another episode where we see more dragons. Heck, we got to see the Griffin Kingdom back in Season 5, so it was only a matter of time before we got to see another dragon episode. When I found out this was a Spike episode, I was immediately looking forward to it because of how the writers used Spike in the crystalling. They knew how to use him to his full potential there, so he should get the same treatment here, right? Well, I can say Spike was at his absolute best in the Gauntlet of Fire. He was always selfless, looked out for the safety of Rarity, Twilight, and Equestria, and he risked a lot just so Equestria and his best friends could be safe. Yes, he wanted out as soon as the Dragon Lord allowed him to leave, but I honestly can't blame him for that, especially after seeing how treacherous the Gauntlet of Fire really was. But it was so nice to see him step up after realizing what Garble would do to Equestria should he become the new Dragon Lord, and just like with Gilda last season, it was really cool to see Garble make a comeback. As for Princess Ember, I thought she was a pretty intriguing character. She went against her father's orders, but for all the right reasons. Besides Spike, it was nice to see that there are other dragons out there that want to be more than just a giant selfish beast. She wanted to rule with an intellectual mindset rather than an iron fist mindset. I enjoyed how she was able to reason beyond instinct. Yeah, it's natural for some competitors to refuse help, but for her, she was fighting greed and selfishness passed on from generation to generation rather than a personal affliction. Just like Spike, Ember is proof that not all dragons have to adhere to the stereotype that is associated with them. And just for the record, I'm really thrilled that the writers avoided Spike growing feelings for Ember beyond friendship and vice versa for her. The writers easily could have had Spike nervous around her, making some comments about how beautiful she is with a jealous Rarity glaring at them, but thankfully we didn't see that. As for Rarity and Twilight, I found it really sweet how Spike wanted them to go just so he wouldn't be alone on his trip. Even though they had to be camouflaged, nothing was going to stop them to cheer on Spike and make sure he was safe during the Gauntlet of Fire. And I enjoyed seeing Spike assisting Rarity outside of her boutique. Another positive I found rather surprising about this episode is how Garble didn't succumb to any of Spike's kindness and become nice as well. It was a little refreshing to see that not everyone is destined to be a friend no matter how hard you try. Garble still hates Spike and any pony he sees, and that's not going to change. It kind of makes him a little more complex than we originally thought. In his original episode, Garble just had a prejudice against ponies, but now after the events of that episode, now he wants to get back at them, yet he never changes his mind even after seeing how friendship is what got Spike and Ember the staff. The scene where he was trapped under the boulder was proof of that. He only called on Spike to use him and to mock him for acting like a pony. Some people just are destined to be selfish bullies, and there's nothing anyone can do about that. There are a few negatives about this episode, however. One example is we've seen the classic teenager of the parent rebels against their orders trope. And another one is who really couldn't tell that Ember was gonna dress up in order to compete and trick her father. And really, her turnaround to help Spike after dumping him was really rushed. I think we could have used a scene where she's lost in the caverns and feels sad that she just ditched her first friend because dragons don't really do the friend thing. The animators could have even thrown in some visuals of her searching in the caverns with empty spaces behind her or next to her. One personal gripe that doesn't affect my opinion for the episode is I really wish when Spike came in contact with that staff, he would have grown at least as tall as Rarity and Twilight, just to visually show how much he's matured as well. But again, that's just a personal thing and it doesn't bother me that much. I also really enjoyed how Ember learned about friendship more through actions than words. It was just generations of instinct not to be too friendly that made her not listen to Spike, so Spike had to compromise and show her how far friendship can take someone. I also appreciated that this episode, if you look at it right, was kind of an homage to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. My evidence is A, the Gauntlet of Fire, which is pretty obvious, B, Ember refusing to help but then accepting Spike's help is like Cedric Diggory reluctantly helping Harry throughout the Triwizard Tournament because it was frowned upon. C. Right as Spike and Ember get to the scepter, only to have Garble get in their way and fight them, is like Harry and Cedric dealing with the vines in the maze as they're about to get to the Triwizard Cup. And D. Spike giving the victory, the scepter, and the title of Dragon Lord to Ember is like Harry and Cedric agreeing to win the Triwizard Cup together because they've helped each other and are true sportsman-like competitors. Take all this as you will, however. Spike willing to risk bodily injury like this really shows how much he's matured throughout the show. It was even nice to see that he wasn't stooping down to Garble's level of insult when he had every right to leave him in the dust or act like a jerk to Garble. Like I said in my Crystalline review, I dreaded Spike a lot after episodes like Spike at Your Service and Princess Spike, but after the treatment he's received thus far in Season 6, I hope we get to see a lot more of him soon. All in all, while there were a few negatives within this episode, the positives about Spike continuing to show how much he's grown and the way he was able to show Ember friendship without Rarity or Twilight pushing him to do so made for, in my opinion, one of the best Spike episodes ever made. We're 5 episodes into Season 6, and so far they've all been green flag episodes to me. What did you think about the Gauntlet of Fire? I'm MrLeftTurn, and I'll see you when I get back from the track.